So let's start with the history of how does AWS came into picture. So we all know that it's a platform for cloud provisioning and for cloud provisioning. So what exactly does it mean? Like when you go to some years back, there was no cloud concept as such. So how does people actually, like, how do people used to deploy their code, or where did they deploy their code? So they had only one way to deploy their code, is to have their own data centers or have their own hosts. So currently in AWS, your host is not yours, it's AWS's host, where you host your servers and virtual servers and host your entire code there. But in previous years, it was not the case. So you need to have a data center, which itself comes up with an additional cost. What all costs are involved? If you have been to data center, there are multiple costs which are also involved in it. So it's just not the server cost. Server needs proper cooling, so it's a cooling cost as well. They need a proper data center where dust is not there and your servers can survive more. So that there needs to be some specific engineers, like system engineers, who need to be deployed continuously to take care of those hosts. Plus also there needs to be some maintenance activities, etc. Then electricity supply, uh, network supply, everything needs to be taken care by a company, which brings an additional cost to your own. Like when you are a startup or when you're growing, in your growing phases, it is a big additional cost. And wherever you are deploying that server, you need to pay for that server place also. Like if you are deploying that server in suppose one floor of a building, then you have to lease that entire floor. So these are all the additional costs which comes when you want to set up your own data center. That is when AWS and other cloud providers came into picture. So there are multiple cloud providers in market these days. One is Azure, Google Cloud, then you have AWS and others. So basically our discussion for today will be pretty much centered to AWS, but this was the history which we traveled as such for the cloud providers. Now it is as easy, like if you want to open your own company today and you want to deploy your own you have your code ready and you want to deploy it, all the additional thing that we did, and like placing routers, having your own servers, DCs, etc., all this cost, like everything, the maintenance of everything is taken care by AWS. All you have to do is make an account and create whatever you want to create. It will give you a virtual environment which is isolated from the world, and then you can control, okay, what traffic can flow in, what traffic can flow out. Correct? Because if you have your own server and it is like it is visible to everyone, or it is there for everyone, then anyone can come log in and do, like there will be a big security issue in this case. So we don't allow that. We allow a very restrictive, when we are creating an AWS account, we get a proper VPC created in that. Let me show you. So please let me know when you can see my screen. So this is an AWS environment. What you see here are your AWS regions where you can deploy or deploy your code. So these are all the regions where your AWS code can be deployed. Cool. We have just like few days back, we have posted certain steps which you can take to decide which region is best for your code to be deployed. So basically, there are multiple things that you have to take care when you are uh, selecting which region you want to deploy your code. Suppose I want to deploy my code in North Virginia currently. So this is my North Virginia region. These are all the services which are provided by AWS already. We will be talking a bit about EC2 today, because it is one of the uh, widely used services of AWS. Before that, I want to show you, like when you go to a VPC, what is a VPC? It is a virtual environment or a virtual environment for your host, which is given to you by like by default, it is given to you by AWS. You can create more VPCs or more virtual cloud environments for yourself. Good thing about having a virtual environment that it is intact, and all these like when you have to interact between a VPC, like if one host needs to interact to the other host of VPC, it doesn't go via internet, it goes directly through a VPC line. So you can consider this as your local network. So one VPC is your one data center which is connected to each other locally. Okay. So by default, you will get one VPC created. Yes, anyone has any questions? Okay.
Parul, it's me, Ramya.
Yeah.
So VPC is basically like a VPN, right? We use in general.
No, it's not like a VPN. Like we do have a service of VPN here in this in AWS. So VPN is basically to connect to a virtual connect to a different environment through a secured network, kind of. So suppose I am sitting at my home, and I have a company where my servers are connected to each other, but only restrictive access is given to the to outside world. So when I'm at home, I will not be able to connect to that environment, correct? Because it is not available outside. Now there can be a secured way wherein you can securely connect to your network there. That mechanism which we use to do that is called VPN. VPC is virtual private cloud, wherein you can wherein you get like I told you now, you can get a local network in that. Okay, so like you have 4 servers, and all those 4 servers are connected. You have one router, stuff like that. Getting my point? It can be very much similar to if you go to your office. Your office will have one router, and all your machines are connected to that router.
Yeah.
Happens like that in your like if you go to your office, it's a general scenario which happens. Like all your if you are working in a big firm, they have one specific router, and all the servers are giving their IPs, and everything will be allotted, and etc. So all this thing that happens within the network of that company stays there. Like it's a restricted network. So mostly when like in all the companies, you'll have a VPN or something to connect to a secured machine, or to connect to your machine also, which is there in that network. Because
okay.
Yeah. Am I able to answer your question, or you have some more doubts? You can come with it.
Yeah, I understood.
Okay, cool. So this is your virtual private cloud, which is by default given to you by AWS. So in all the whichever region you go, in all the regions you'll get one of them. Like one for North Virginia you will get, one for Ohio you will get, and these are identified by your VPC IDs. So this is a specific ID which is given to you, like your employee ID. So your VPC also has a specific ID. So if you want to connect to that VPC, or you want to identify that VPC, you'll identify it with your VPC ID, because VPC ID is a unique identifier which is being used. One interesting thing here which I want to show you is every region also has some availability zones. These availability zones are logically separated. They are not 2 different data centers, but they are logically separated. Like, can you see this? If you want to know more about the availability zones, AWS have an official documentation wherein you can get all your availability zones, that how many availability zones are there in your region, and then you can distribute your load or distribute your instances in such a way that they are in HA. HA as in if you have 2 servers, and you keep both of them in only one availability zone, and if that availability zone goes down for some reason, for some maintenance or something, due to a mishap, then your entire service goes down. So if you have a service, you want to deploy a service, but you want to distribute that load, into two servers. Then you have one server in one availability zone and another server in another availability zone, so that if one availability zone goes down, then you have one other server to take care of an entire routing for you, and your application will not be affected in that case. So this is the reason behind having a availability zone. So you can get all the information about your availability zones. I can share that link with you. Okay. So these are all the regions, and then you can get all your availability zones as well. I can share the link where you can get all the information about all the availability zones present in one region. So let's continue. Let's continue to EC2. Okay, this is basically one service which is used to host multiple VMs for you. So what you need actually to host your code or to deploy your code, one instance, right? Or one server where you can deploy your code. So this service given by AWS will help you deploy your code and have one specific server. So you can have one server, multiple servers, depending upon what you want to have. So if I just want to launch one small instance, I'll go to launch. So the first thing that we encounter here when we launch an instance is Amazon Machine Image, AMI. What is an AMI? An AMI is kind of a snapshot. Like if you have worked with servers before, so what we do is if you want to replicate a server, we take the snapshot of the server and duplicate it at multiple places. So this is kind of your snapshot or an image of your server. If you have worked with Docker, it is kind of an image. It's not an image, but yes, kind of, you can say. So this is your snapshot. You have multiple snapshots which are available to you. These are made available by AWS already. So you can go for the free tier ones. Like this is your Linux 2. This is your Red Hat. If you want to go for Ubuntu, you can go for Ubuntu. You will have Windows machines as well. So mostly all type of servers you can get here. Okay, but you can have your own custom created AMIs as well. So whatever server that you host here in AWS, you can create an AMI of that and launch another instance from that. So these two instances will be kind of replicas. So like, are you getting my point, or is there anything that I should repeat? Go back and repeat.
No, it's clear.
Okay. So this is kind of your, these are all your free tier images, which you can go ahead, just select one, whichever you want. Next thing it will ask you for is instance type. So these are all the instance type available in AWS. Let me give you a brief idea about instance type. AWS instance type. I'll share these links here in the description so that you can select the best instance type for your server. So whenever you are designing an AWS environment or whenever you are designing an AWS architecture, you have to take care of what instance you're choosing and why you're choosing it. So if you want to save money, you can go ahead with the free tier. If you want to deploy a database, then probably you should take a memory optimized image and not memory optimized instance and not a normal instance. So you have to select it from here. These are all the instances which are given. You can read the description below and find out which one is the best for you. Like if you want to go for T2, what does it provide? It provides higher CPU performance. So if you want more CPU performance, then you will go for T2. If you want memory optimized, you can obviously go to memory optimized. You can go to compute optimized, whichever you want to select. Okay, there like if you see here, you can get like get a proper information about these instances here as well. Okay, like what will be like if you select T2 nano, what will be the memory, what will be the CPU, you can select that. Cool. So these are the use cases of this is also given already. So I'm going to share this in chat so that you can use it in your day-to-day life. The chat option. Yeah. Okay. So this is the suppose I just want to select a one small or micro image. Then I'll go to the next screen, which will show me how many instances do I want to create, and the auto scaling group. This auto scaling concept itself will take a lot of time, so we'll cover it in our next session. But just to give you a heads up, auto scaling groups will kind of handle your load whenever there's like you have just one instance of your application and load on that increases to a certain level. Then this auto scaling group can be triggered, and automatically AWS will identify that I need another instance to route all the requests. So it will create one more instance, two more instances, depending upon the configuration that you have created in auto scaling group. So mostly like just to increase the number of instances as the load increases, this concept can be handled by AWS itself just by configuring auto scaling group. So obviously you will have to select your VPC here. So since I have just one VPC, it is already selected. I can go with whichever subnet I want to go. This subnet concept we'll take in detail in the next session when we will discuss about VPCs, about how to create your own VPC and how to design your own VPCs. Currently, we're just like you can select anyone whichever you want, depending upon what you want. Like so there are 400 IPs available in this VPC currently, so you can ideally you can have more, around 400 instances in just this subnet. Okay, auto assign public IP. You have to be very specific, and you'll have to be very cautious when you're selecting this, because when you auto assign a public IP, an elastic IP will be assigned to your instance. Like if it's a public instance, then an elastic IP will be assigned. That elastic IP will charge you some specific cost also. So if you want an elastic IP, if you want a public IP for your instance, only then go for this rule, else you should not. And this basically makes sense when you have your own when you have uh, launched this instance publicly in a public subnet as in which can talk to internet directly. So there can be different subnets. One subnet can talk to internet directly, while if you have launched an instance in a private subnet, then it cannot it cannot directly talk to internet. It will go via a NAT. Okay, if you know a concept of NAT. If you don't, then don't worry, we'll cover that as well. Like you can ask for more videos if you want to know more about that. Just
what is elastic IP?
Elastic IP is basically a specific okay, so that itself is a very vast topic. I'll try and wrap it up a little bit because we have a time crunch as well. Okay, so an elastic IP is a public IP which is assigned to an instance. Now, what this public IP is? So in an entire world, there can be only limited public IPs, right? You cannot have as many public IPs as you want. Okay, so so those IPs needs to be allotted to you by an ISP provider. Okay, we can discuss that entire thing in detail, but that needs to be provided to you by an ISP provider. Amazon itself has its provider, so you can take that public IP from Amazon. If you take that public IP from Amazon, which means that now that IP is allotted to you. In an entire world, no one else can have that IP except you. And whenever you try to ping through that IP, it will come to only your machine. Getting my point? It's very much similar. Okay. So it's very much similar to when you have this. If you go back in your old times, you have this ISP provider. So you don't have these routers as such. So you have to connect to your ISP provider. Pehle, you get a dialog box. You put your password, username. They will connect to an ISP, give you an IP, and then you can connect and talk to internet. So in old, like some few years back, we used to connect through that route. I hope I was able to cover a little bit. I'm not sure if I can cover it in whole.
I got to understand a little bit, but I still have doubts.
yes, you can. If you have any doubts, you can obviously go and like chat with me if you want, and we can have another session as well. So since it is a very big concept, how an IP, a public IP, is allotted to an instance, it itself is a very big topic. So we cannot cover. I don't think we can cover it in this small time frame.
Okay, no problem.
Cool. Okay, how to increase a RAM CPU core? So if you want to increase your core, you have to increase the instance type of it. So if you increase the instance type, you can obviously increase the core memory of that thing. So I can show you here. So suppose you have a T2 nano instance launched. So your memory or your RAM will be just 0.5 GB. If you want to increase it to 4, suppose I want to increase it to 4, I can take T2 medium instance. But there is a possibility that you don't need these many cores. So these are core. So if you see T2 medium will give you 2 core processor, like 2 CPU processor and 4 GB of RAM and memory. Does that answer your question? Please guys ping me or just cool. So let's continue. Let us first create at least one EC2 instance today. What I'll do is I'll review. No, I'll go previous. Okay. Previous. So we were not here. Okay, we were somewhere here. Okay. Okay, so we have configured this instance. Now we'll have to add a storage to it. You can take this storage as your root device disk. So minimum is 8 GB. So an 8 GB GP2 instance you can attach. You can attach IOPS. You can attach a magnetic disk also to your machine. So consider this storage as the disk that you attach in your machine. Like if you have worked with old CPUs, the big CPU ones, then you remember that we attach a memory, a hard disk to that. So just consider this as your hard disk. You can attach multiple hard disks. Currently, I am just keeping it as it is. The type of hard disk that you want to attach can also be changed. There are 3 options. You can select whichever option that you want. If you want, we can have a detailed description on this as well. Okay. So next thing that I want to talk to you about is add tags. So it is always a good practice to add tags to your instances. So when you are working like professionally in handling an AWS account, then it is always good to attach a tag to whichever instance that you are creating. So like I attach name and I attach my name here. You can write a description, anything, whichever you want to. Like don't write name, just write owner. So this name tag will give the name of the server. So I think it should be owner. And you can attach a name as test machine. Cool. Description is demo. So it's always good to identify your host so that like if you are working in a professional environment, you don't end up in a mess wherein we don't know which host was created by whom or who is the contact person for this host. So you can create a contact person or whatever you want to create in this case. You can write a reason or a description for that host so that you know, in the end, you know why you created this host. Okay, so this is a very interesting and vast topic which I'm going to cover in a short description of this right now. Security groups. It is very important to have your own security groups attached to it. Like if you see a security group currently, your security group have only SSH 22 allowed, but from everywhere in the world. So what does this mean? This means from like if you have worked with firewalls, it is kind of a firewall. It's not a firewall, but it's just like an identifier wherein it will restrict your incoming and outgoing traffic on that host. Now this is a host specific thing. You can attach this security group to multiple hosts or to one host depending upon what you want to do. So a security group is something wherein I identify or I write multiple rules according to which it will see, okay, should I allow this host or should I not allow this host? So so this, you have a logic defined here in your security groups. So suppose I don't want to allow SSH from everywhere, because it can be a security hazard here. I want to allow it from one specific IP, which can be my IP also. Like suppose I have some IP called 10.0.0.16 and I want to allow SSH into this machine from this IP range only. Then I can do this. I have one server. Okay. Now I have one server running on port 80 and I want to open it to all or everyone in the world. What will I do? I will like remove the I will allow all the IPs, but to only one specific IP, which is HTTP. Like if I select HTTP, it will be 80. So only port 80 will be allowed from everywhere in the world, while SSH is allowed only from these specific IP source. This can be one specific IP or a CIDR, an IP CIDR. Cool. So we are ready to launch our instance. Just by clicking this launch button, we can launch our new instance here. So this is what I could cover today. If you have any doubts till here on any of these topics currently, you can ask now, or you can go on the chat, you can go on your respective platforms and text us. We will obviously come back either by writing or by or we can create another content around that as well, or have another session depending upon depending upon how big that question is. So anyone have any doubts still here about security groups, storage? Okay, one more thing which I want to give you today is it is very important, like when you are working in a professional environment, it is very important to know what is the pricing. What is the pricing of the AWS instance which you are launching in your environment, like the price. So I'm going to give you this link wherein you can go and check what is the price of the instance that you have launched. So suppose you have launched a T2 micro instance, which means this is an EBS only, and this will be the cost of that server per hour, which will be charged to your account. Okay, this is just the server cost. It is not the storage cost, etc. That you'll have to calculate in, like we can calculate that in future classes as well. Anyone have any doubts? I think there's something on chat as well. No, one instance cannot be deployed in multiple regions. So consider region as a specific, like if you go and check regions, they are specific locations where AWS have their own data centers. Yes. Yes, you can unmute yourself and just, hello? You want to say something?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. While running an instance, can we able to increase the RAM and CPU?
Yes, you can. You can just increase the, like you can just change the instance type and you can increase your RAM, etc.
No, we can. So we need to change it from T2 micro to a T2 medium or large, right?
Yes.
During running
yes.
also. Can we able to? Can you show that? How can we change it?
Okay. Okay. Let me launch this instance first. So it will ask for your key pair. Oh my god, I don't have a key pair. Okay, Ramya had a question. If you can have multiple one instance deployed in multiple regions. No, like consider AWS region as one physical data center or one physical location where all your servers are kept. So if you have identified and if you have said that I want this instance to be launched in this region, then it will be launched in that region only. If you want to launch it in some other region, like if you want a replica of that instance to be launched in another region, then you have to make an AMI of this image. Like I have this, I can create an AMI of this image, and I can create an AMI, transfer that AMI in that region, and then create an instance there. So like instances cannot be just physically also migrated. So it's like keeping a physical machine somewhere. It's not a physical machine, but it's like you can transfer the image and do that, not directly. Okay, now how to increase the instance type? Obviously, you can do that. No, cancel. Just a sec. Instance type option. This instance type option is disabled currently. I think I have to stop this image. I have stopped this instance currently. It was running in running state. Let's see what happens. Ramya, your question answered, or like you still have some doubts? I think we have crossed the line of Zoom maybe. So this meeting, I think I should finish this answer first. So when you stop this instance, this option will be enabled. You can just click this option and change your instance type to T2 medium or whatever you want to. Oh, come on. Okay, now it is in stopped state. Just change the instance type to whichever instance you want to create. Does this answer your question? And as soon as you change the instance type, your RAM will be increased depending upon whatever is given to you here in this. And also the pricing will change according to this. Cool. One more thing, pricing also depends on the region where you're launching the instance. So if you're launching an instance in Ohio, this is the price. If you're launching it in Virginia, it is this. These are the prices. Any other question, guys? So was I able to answer all your questions? If you still have some doubts, you can obviously go ahead and like just text us. We will get back to you. So I hope I was able to solve some of your queries regarding an introduction on AWS. We'll continue these sessions in upcoming classes. Like next class will be about Docker, introduction of Docker, then we'll take AWS again. So it's like we'll cover 2 topics simultaneously. So thank you everyone. Thank you for joining. I hope I was able to do justice to your time as well. And stay home, stay safe. It's the best time for us to learn something new. I think I have something. Oh. So obviously, if you get some doubts, you can just text me. I will get back to you as soon as possible, and if possible, we can have a live session as well. Like, thank you guys. Thank you for joining.